And I feel so incredibly fortunate and blessed to have a really cool guest speaker tonight. So thanks for joining. And I just want to make sure we're going live into lots of Facebook groups. So are we good? Are we live? Can I get started? Just give me a thumbs up if
I'm here. I'm ready.
You're there, Kevin? Okay. And are we live into the right pages? We're just holding on, just making sure it loads. You know how it loads. All right, so good evening, everyone. We've got lots of people to hear this really hot topic. It's for the next generation. It's our kids. It's our children. And we know that kids are under a tremendous amount of stress. Studies are showing that they are 50% more stressed than they were before the pandemic. And this thing isn't over anytime soon. And it's really alarming what's happening to these children. And I want to be a part of a solution for them. And so I looked for the best, and I found a really cool guy that I'm super, super excited to interview tonight, because I had the privilege of getting to know this man just the last couple of months. And the first time I ever chatted with him on Zoom, I knew this was the guy I wanted to be connected to. So my guest tonight is Dr. Kevin Rouse, and he is a pediatrician for over 30 years in a private practice in Jonesboro, Arkansas. And he just has, his credentials are amazing. I love the fact that he's got some experience behind him. He has his bachelor's in biology, his MD from the University of Arkansas, and he completed his internal medicine and pediatrics residency at the University of Arkansas and the Arkansas Children's Hospital. I also love that he is just a really integrity man behind the scenes. He's been married to his sweetheart, as he calls her, for 30 years, has 2 children, 3 dogs, and is super active in his church playing in the worship band. So this is just like a well-rounded dad and doctor and human. And so Dr. Kevin, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us tonight on such an important topic.
Oh, great. You're welcome, Sarah. Yeah, you're welcome, Sarah. Thank you for asking me. I'm honored and humbled to be here.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, let's just dive right into this. You know, what are you seeing with your expertise? What are you seeing going on with kids and families in your practice? Tell us the story.
Well, I mean, I've been in practice here in Jonesboro, Arkansas for about 20 years, and not 30. I'm not that old, so I think
20. Oh, sorry, 20. I made you 20, older.
Yeah. So, you know, being a pediatrician, I see families every day, and I've been seeing families every day for 20 plus years. And when I trained in medical school and residency, you know, you learned how to take care of sick kids. You learned how to take care of strep throat. You learned how to do, you know, checkups on babies. But, you know, you didn't really see or realize how much you'd be interacting with families and issues that families have and mental health. And so, of course, since the spring, since March of this year, mental health has come to the forefront in awareness. But, you know, I've been dealing with mental health issues in families and kiddos for years. It has escalated in the last few months with COVID and the pandemic and kids being quarantined at home and schools going virtual and kids now going back to school in a whole different environment, wearing masks, social distancing. So, you know, it is escalating, but, you know, I think we have to realize that mental health is an issue that families have struggled with from beginning of time. And I've had just frustrations on my part trying to figure out the best way to help families in the 20 years I've been in practice.
You know, Kevin, the first time I chatted with you, I was so impressed that you as a physician were going above and beyond, behind closed doors, not getting paid for it, to search for your patients and these families for alternatives. tell us, what has been the traditional route, and, I'd love to just educate people, the traditional route of helping these families that we have right now, the solutions you have right now as a doctor, and where do you see a disconnect? Where do you see, why were you searching outside the box for them?
Well, first of all, I think I have to tell you that the journey began really for myself because over the last few years, I've just not been feeling healthy. My wife and I are both feeling the same way. It's been a stressful few years for us. We're now in our 50s. We've become empty nesters. We're dealing with aging parents, the loss of my father, the loss of my wife's mother. All of those things over the last few years had just kind of taken a toll. And I've always been a pretty active guy, but I found myself just being not motivated, being tired all the time, going to work, coming home, sitting in a recliner, taking a nap until time to go to bed, and then basically repeating the same thing the next day. I found myself weighing more than I've ever weighed in my life. And so I was really just kind of looking for a solution for myself. And so I found that solution. It was kind of funny how it came about, but I had a connection with a guy I now call Coach, and he introduced me to some holistic products. And I thought, I think this is worth a try. I've been on antidepressants myself, and I think they're helping me some, but I'm just not there. And so I gave the products a try. I did some research and looked into it, and I never really expected this to happen as a result of that, but I became intrigued about there being a kids line. And so from a traditional standpoint, I trained in routine medicine, and we don't get a lot of training in medical school, or at least in my generation. I hope the newer generation is getting training regarding nutrition and regarding gut health and regarding mental health and behavioral health. We didn't get a lot of training in that. I pretty much learned things as I went through my practice. So I would find myself falling into, for lack of a better word, the trap of traditional practice, is that when I would see a family that were dealing with issues, whether it would be their child having behavior problems or sleeping problems, learning problems, hyperactivity, whatever it may be, gut problems, digestive problems, whatever it might be, I would, rule out something immediately medical, but I would think, well, okay, I guess it's time to send these folks off to be tested, see if we have an actual diagnosis, and then let's start medicating people, because that's what we do. and that worked sometimes, but I found myself getting frustrated that I just seemed like I was doing this way too often. And parents would even come to me and ask, Dr. Rouse, is there something else we can do? Or what do you think about if we try this? They might bring me a supplement, and I would say, well, you know what? I don't really know. Let's Google it and see, because we just didn't get the training in that. So when I became introduced to this line of holistic products, I actually saw firsthand how they work, and I was able to learn about the science behind them, and was intrigued that there was a kids line, and started saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to try this in my patients. I see that it's safe, and I'm seeing there's studies to support it, and I'm just going to give it a try and see what happens.
Wow. So let's recap. What I'm hearing from you is that you had parents asking you, you're seeing a lot of children suffering and families frustrated, parents frustrated, looking for solutions. Right now, the solutions medically are drugs, and they a lot of times have side effects. And so you were searching not only for your patients, but also for you, which I love that you share that vulnerability. Thank you. Because I see professional people all the time that are going through tough times. So it's not just our kids, it's us too. And often that gets overlooked, or we hide that under the carpet. We close that closet door. We don't want anyone to know that, but that's not healthy. It's not helping the problem. It's making it worse. And so you are seeing this need, and I'm sure as a physician, you probably have, parents coming to you, bringing you a lot of different things. Why did you choose specifically the Amari brand? I'm just curious. Can you share what made you feel really confident in sharing that with your patients?
Absolutely. Okay, so to be completely honest with you, these are the first products I've actually used in patients. I've along the way said that, yeah, there's probably some benefit to fish oil, omegas. I've heard that's out there. Yeah, you can go try it if you want. But the neat thing that I found about this is when I was looking at the products and reading the studies and was asking questions to you as well as to my coach, they were like, well, why don't we just let you talk to some of the developers of this stuff? And so I was just totally impressed that I was able to have an actual conversation with Dr. Sean Talbot, who is the scientist behind our products. And, for instance, the kids product, Kids Mood, the ingredients in that, a major ingredient is saffron, uh, along with some other things such as holy basil, oregano, rosemary, clove. Can you get these things somewhere else? Absolutely. Can you go to the vitamin store and get this? Absolutely. I don't know where they've processed, where they've obtained the products, how they've manufactured them. I certainly cannot talk to the person who is behind all of that. You just go at faith and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to take some of this and hope it works. But I actually got to talk to the PhD, the scientist who developed these products in his lab. He knows where his sources come from. He knows they're pure. He knows the ingredients. He knows that this combination of products together works. You don't have 10 bottles of this, and this lined up. And so we have them all lined up there. And you know what? The data was there that it worked. And so that was enough for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And I want to point out too that what I found with the Amari brand is that it is the first ever holistic approach to mental fitness and mental wellness. There was nothing like this out there that was a system. And so you'll find like bits and pieces here or there, but it's like piecemealing things together. So finding where a product is sourced is huge. I just had someone recently tell me at a salon that even with salon like hair products, you buy a brand name on Amazon, which I never knew this. You buy a brand name hair care product on Amazon, you are not guaranteed that that product is in that bottle with that name on it, even though it's a name brand, because people are deceiving. People are people. And so you have to be so careful whether you're buying off Amazon, whether you're buying off, anything, and especially nutrition. So I think always the results are huge. The results are in the testimonies. What are you seeing? Can you give us some stories that you're seeing in some of these patients that you've put on this brand?
Oh my gosh. Can I ever? You may have to tell me when to stop.
This is my favorite part. I want you to know this is my absolute favorite part, because the science and the ingredients and all that, but what's it doing? So tell us.
Okay. So as I was kind of gathering my information and just kind of putting this in an organized fashion so I'd be able to talk somewhat intelligently, I've got notes and texts from families. I try to follow up with them regularly. And I was just trying to piece that together so I could be organized. I got goosebumps, and it was just throughout the day. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, I mean, I started doing, hey, this is still relatively new to me. I started products myself in June. Okay. I really didn't start getting into sharing with patients until on later in the month as I became comfortable with how it was working for me. So I've got kids as on products as recently as last week, products as long back as in July. So my first kiddo that I put on products is 7, and just a neat kiddo, but he's diagnosed as ADHD combined type. So he's got inattention and he's hyperactive. He's all over the place. Well, first grade did not go well. And parents came to see me, in the spring, just talking about that. And we were like, well, yeah, you meet the criteria. And they just didn't want to do medication. And I'm like, well, studies show that you can do all this stuff as far as changing the way your kids sit in the classroom, giving them a little more time for work. all that stuff helps, but really the gold standard is adding medication. And they just didn't want to do that. And I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. We'll see how we do. And, we'll see how second grade goes. Well, in the meantime, I got introduced to this. And they came in the summer for something else. And I introduced the concept. She said, yes, let's give it a try. So we did. And so we started in the summer. Of course, school was out. He was doing fine. He was a little calmer. He was eating better. That's one of the first things the parents talked about. He was eating better. And so I would just follow up a weekly text, see how you're doing. She says, we're doing good. We're doing good. Well, finally school time came and he's in second grade. I'm just kind of looking at my notes on him because this is awesome. He's in second grade. He's doing great. Grades are good. He's eating well. He finally weighs more than 50 pounds. And he sits still in class. One thing, now they're doing some virtual days here. So the kids go to school, but then they have one day a week or every other week where they're virtual. So mom got to see him. Actually, I think it was a grandparent. Grandparent got to be at home with him on virtual day. And the coolest thing that I think the mom told me was he was himself. He was a busy boy, but he did his work and he got it done. But he was still a busy boy, but he was himself. So I thought that was really cool. And another kiddo, my second kiddo to put on products. This little guy is a 5-year-old ex-preemie twin. I forget exactly how premature he was, but he was a preemie guy, and he was in preschool last year, and all over the place. I mean, ADHD written all over it. And so he was not doing well in preschool. Mom's an educator. She saw what was coming for kindergarten, was really nervous. Well, he's really young. I don't like to throw kids on meds that young. So we sent him to psychology and they did testing. Of course, he met the criteria. And the psychologist even said, you know what, he's young. Let's just see how we do in kindergarten. And so mom came to see me and she wasn't quite comfortable with that because she's an educator and she knew he was struggling in preschool and he was not going to do well. She was almost tearful because she says, I've got to do something. He is not going to do it. So this was me being familiar with the product. So in the back of my mind, I thought, this may not be the greatest thing to do, but I totally understand where mom's coming from. So we're going to try some medicine. So I put him on a low dose stimulant and we tried it and, he did okay, but he had some side effects of some tummy aches and being moody and a little more aggressive. So when they came for their follow-up after 1 month of medicine, I got all that information and in the interim, I had become aware of our products. And so I said, what do you think about this? And she said, let's do it. And we did it. And so this little kiddo is just doing wonderfully. He's in kindergarten now. We were able to drop his medication. He's still having to have a small dose of a stimulant med in the morning because he's extremely hyperactive. But he's also doing the kids pack and he's taking that. He's doing really well. Mom actually sent me a video Friday of him sitting in his kindergarten class reading. Cutest little thing. He wears glasses. He's just adorable. But he was sitting there reading his book, just sitting still, reading a book. And he has no tummy aches. The side effects of the stimulant are gone because he takes the mood and he's no tummy aches. He's sleeping well and he's eating well. You want me to keep going?
First of all, I just have to say, it gives me goosebumps because hyperactivity, focus issues, sleep, tummy aches, this is huge for parents. And right now there's so much anxiousness in children I have a 5-year-old granddaughter, and just the masks and the kids, the parents can't come into school. There's just anxiety everywhere. And it's that cortisol, serotonin, dopamine response that these kiddos are going through that when you have chronic drips of it all day long, it's going to affect their health long term if we don't do something about it. And so first of all, I love your passion for kids. And I have to just tell everybody, are you in your Lego room? You have a Lego room. Can you just this is what a cool dude you are.
I am. I'm at my Lego table. I'm sitting at my Lego table. It's the Lego / jigsaw puzzle table. So my wife doesn't let all the Legos stay here. Most of them are in my office when they're finished, but I have my latest project here, my Volkswagen Beetle that I put together. So, but I've got the Batmobile, the Disneyland train, Mustang, Harley Davidson, all those Legos are up in my office. So
You're like seriously the best doctor ever. Like, if anybody's listening to this, just give him like a virtual round of applause, because this is a pediatrician who's going above and beyond for his families and looking outside the box. These are some things that I hear from people all the time, Dr. Rolf. So let's talk about, being able to take these products. Now, obviously, it's always under a doctor's care when they're under medications, but that you can take this with SSRIs, and that's pretty significant if a child does need a low dose, or we can even wean off the doses, correct? Like, that's pretty powerful.
yeah, correct. I mean, in fact, I've got a couple other kids. One of them's a 7-year-old, and actually, and she's given me permission. He's actually a child of one of the nurse practitioners that works in our practice. Horrific anxiety, just major anxiety. A brilliant kiddo, I mean, but very anxious, and was on an SSRI. And so he's under the care of child psychiatry and is on an SSRI, but we put him on the products. And over the course from the summer until now, he is weaned off of his SSRI. And once again, I don't want anybody to stop medications or anything like that without consulting with your physician. But this kiddo has been able to wean off his SSRI, and he is doing the kids pack. He does a couple of moods a day. He's a happy kiddo, Mom said. His grades were low A's, but now he makes hundreds on pretty much everything. So that's one. And then I have another kiddo who is on an SSRI, and he's been able to reduce his dose. He is 10, and just major anxiety. I mean, it was affecting just quality of life. I mean, he would have to leave school early. He was in the bathroom all the time because of gut issues, chronic constipation, and he's doing great. I mean, his bowel movements are regular. He's on a lower dose of SSRI and maybe be able to, eventually wean off. And then another kiddo, that back to the anxiety issue, an 11-year-old boy that I see, who I've seen since he was a baby. He's a really special patient of mine. He has just been over the top with anxiety as long as I can remember. And his parents are divorced, and dad lives out of state. And so whenever visitation comes up where he has to go, he gets so anxious, and he couldn't really eat a meal, even just regular. He couldn't eat a meal without being in the bathroom for like an hour afterwards, either trying to go to the bathroom or having diarrhea. So we started products there a couple of months ago, and he's just doing wonderfully. He's doing fine. I mean, and I've even got kids with ADHD that are still on meds, but the side effects are gone. And the parents have, as a result, they said, you know what, I think I might want to try some of this myself. And so I've got some families that the parents have even started using products as well.
Wow. I just have to say, when my husband became ill several years ago, and he was put on some pretty heavy meds, and he was put on very heavy anxiety and depression meds, even though that wasn't what he had going on, that's what they put him on. The side effects nearly took his life. And, I just want to thank you as a medical professional. I want to thank you that you are open-minded enough to search and, do the homework behind the scenes and look and see, the clinical studies, and is it safe, and is it real? Because there's a lot of junk out there. Let's face it, there's a lot of junk out there. But you did that homework, and I think you're going to give a lot of parents hope tonight that are also worried for their kiddos. It's interesting how many of these kids and adults that are anxious and have stress. I mean, who isn't stressed right now? Hello. I mean, if you live in America, we're kind of stressed. And the world is stressed. It is a world conversation right now. And when you look, knowing that you can't fix everything, but that you have some control to solutions, and amazing how being under anxiousness, it affects going to the bathroom. It affects tummy aches. So many parents come to me saying their children have tummy aches, and yet they're anxious. And isn't it interesting how it's all interrelated? You'd think it'd be their head. You'd think it would be their head bothering them, but it's not. It's their stomach, isn't it?
Absolutely. The gut is the second brain.
It truly is. It is the second brain. So listen, what would you what else would you like to share with parents tonight? Because one of the things that I think also is so important, I think America is waking up that the family unit is most important, part. I know you and I have had a lot of discussions around this. And the worry right now of suicide, even in young kids, and depression and cutting and drug addiction, what would be your advice to the parent listening tonight to help these families not go down that path?
Well, Sarah, I think, obviously, like I said, I see families every day, and I think we have an epidemic of the breakdown of the family, and whatever that looks like for each family is different. And I really think the source of most of our problems come from that. But I think it's important for families, whatever your family looks like, whether it's mom and dad and kids, whether it's mom and kids, dad and kids, grandparents and kids. We're seeing so many grandparents raising children now, great grandparents raising children now, whoever is raising their kiddos. You got to have communication as your family unit. And I think you have to stay in constant communication with your kiddos. It's stressful times. It's always stressful for kids growing up, but this generation is facing so many more things with social media, with the pandemic, obviously. So I think you have to have communication from your kids. Start it early and continue it. When your kid comes home from school, ask how their day was. Have them tell you one good thing about the day and one bad thing about the day. Eat meals together, play games together, turn the TVs off, turn the news off, turn the weather channel off, things that stress kids out that you don't realize. Turn these off, take these away from, but makes your kids, even though you think they want to be on their phone or their tablet all the time, that's not what they want. They want the parent. They want human interaction. They want someone to care about them and to focus on them and to tell them they have a purpose and that they're created for a purpose, and breathe life into them. And so do that and watch your kids for signs or cues. A lot of parents don't have a clue what their kids are going through. And when we see adolescents in our office at well visits, we on all adolescents, we do a depression screener. It's called PHQ-9. And surprisingly, the kids really, it's just a questionnaire. It's got 9 questions. We give them a Sharpie or a magic erase paper, a pen, and they circle the questions. And they're brutally honest on these things. There's questions about, are you tired all the time? Have you lost interest in things? Do you feel unmotivated? Do you ever have thoughts of hurting yourself? We find so many kids that score very high on that, and the parents had no clue. We've sent kids. We're fortunate enough. We have some mental health folks pretty close proximity to my practice, and we just send them right out the door to the mental health folks, just because we find some kids that are suicidal. So you got to listen. You got to talk to them. Your child may roll their eyes at you when you're asking them how their day was, but they really want to know that you care.
You made a comment to me one day, or just earlier today, actually. You said that a parent should know their children the best, the absolute best. Do you remember when you said that to me, that a parent should know their child, that a parent should know their child the best?
Oh, absolutely. Your parent should, the parent should be who knows their child better than anyone else.
And so parents need to listen to that gut instinct. I hope you can hear me okay. But parents, you need to listen to your gut instinct. And if your kiddos, if you're starting to see some of these signs of anxiousness, there are options. I want to encourage you to have some hope, what Dr. Rowell shared tonight with. I think this is just some great beginning information. Talk to the person that shared this with you. Please reach out to me. We're here to help you. And what I love is that you have nothing to lose. When you try something that's safe and it's holistic, if it doesn't work, you can always then fall back onto a medication. But why not try it first? And I love what Dr. Sean Talbot always says, to make holistic first and, Eastern first and Western second. Try to live through diet, lifestyle, health first. And if that doesn't work, then fall back. And I feel like we're opposite in the US. We just medicate right away, and we don't talk about lifestyle. We don't talk about any of these, other possible solutions. So I want to encourage you to reach out to the person that brought you here. Dr. Rose, I'm going to have you back. I'm going to have you back on my podcast. I've got all sorts of questions for you and topics. I'm sure all these parents do too. But this is a great start. It's a great start to let a parent know there is hope, that you as a pediatrician are seeing some phenomenal results within your clinic, and you're just getting started. And I can't wait to follow you and see what happens in your practice and all these kiddos that we're able to help, and parents not just make it through these tough times, but like really thrive into stress resiliency, into true mental fitness. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything you want to leave the parents with that are listening in?
Oh, I think just like I said earlier, know your kids, love your kids, listen to your kids. And no one is a better advocate for your child than you. And so just remember that. No one's going to fight for your child more than you are. So just fight for our children. They're our next generation, and enjoy them while they're home. Okay. Because mine are out of the home, and it's just like sand through the fingers. It's like, oh, where did it go? So enjoy your children, pour into them, listen to them. And I guess that's it.
Oh, thank you so much. And listen, everyone, I'm going to be hosting this Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central an event on learning more about the brand that Dr. Rouse put the kids on and how you can get it. You can also reach out to the person that shared this with you, and we will be here to serve you. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And Dr. Rouse, God bless you. And thank you so much. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.